All right, bringing it back. So now, in this world of our role being, okay, we got an injury. All right, we got to train the entire body. And this is for everybody. It's not just NFL. This is sports is what I'm talking about. But you can approach this with anybody. And this is where my experience came from and how to stroke it across the board to all humans. So the level of strength was so high, you could still function above all the rules being broken underneath by the team and the team's trainers and the team's orthopedics. Because again, the god of the team and what we do for performance and healing and rehab is from the orthopedic angle. And you know this, their education, training, and science and research behind everything is so backwards and on top of itself. That's why anybody underneath, being the sports med team, the physical therapy team, the personal player, and the athlete and everybody had to go hire their own people outside, because the teams was whatever the latest and greatest evidence-based blah blah blah, and we already know what evidence-based means. It means absolutely nothing. Research-based means absolutely nothing. Science-based means absolutely nothing. I hope we're aware of this now. So we kept doing this and producing this. Now, our suggestion to the athletes who are working with us, if you can avoid all the therapies and treatments and protocols, try to. At all costs. Just don't go to physical therapy. Don't go to your sports medicine. Don't go into the treatments. Don't do this. Those machines you have at home that you've invested in that are all write-offs because you're a pro or college athlete, ditch them. Don't do them. Don't participate in them. Don't do the massage. Don't do the raw thing. Don't do the physical therapy. Do not do the acupuncture. And we had success, but success being the athlete could play, but in no way were they healed. Their level of function was just so high while the tissue healed underneath, but it was on them to continue to approach and keep going. And then there's no way the tissue is going to heal in 17 weeks even in the NFL season. And I'm using NFL because of the two examples, but you can approach this in any seasonal sport. The true healing would take place even beyond. So when the season was over, that's when, just because you don't sense it anymore doesn't mean the tissue's not done. It's that last little 2% in injuries that takes the longest, and that's where the greatest change comes in. But they could produce on the field at a really high level, especially approaching it the way we had when 98% healed, when 90% healed. But it's that last 2% that takes years. That's where the biggest changes approach. So when athletes are in that world, the work they have to do outside of to offset the treatments and therapies, in addition to addressing their own injury, is radical. And then our athletes were also denying the little minimal packets of medications that they'd be given. But then you're like, but when I see them on the field or on the court or in the season, they move around like no problem. But they were just injured. I mean, look at them. They are so drugged up on things designed so that they don't feel. Again, when you sign up, you are going into a world that has you are to produce because you are a commodity for this team. And now the agents are getting involved in everything else, especially in baseball, and they're not allowing them to throw and perform, but they'll give them drugs and rehab and therapies and all this other bullshit, but then they'll limit them on the number of throws they have. It just doesn't make any fucking sense. But you have these people running the world of sports, and it's just upside down on its head. And so again, that's something that I want to share when you are observing your favorite athlete. This is what's going on that they're not talking about. And this is what's going on even if you are a pro athlete, and the reality of what you're going to have to do, or college athlete, what you're going to have to do in the truth of how the body heals, to offset the therapy choices and the team choices and everything else that goes on to put you back on the field of play, to break every rule imaginable in healing. And so we'd see it all the time. And then it would end up leading, it would be, well, there's people that never chose to go work with you guys. So there's people that never chose this. They stayed with the team. How did they last so long if their rules were being broken? Well, it appears to me that there's a lot of people retiring because of injuries, and that's just unnecessary. That doesn't make any sense. To walk away from a professional sport because of an injury doesn't make any sense, because all injuries can heal to a level greater than what you did before. You just got to leave the formula of what they're providing to you. or suggesting to you. But to leave because you don't want it anymore, to leave because it's not fun, or to leave because you want to spend time with your family, to leave because you just have no reason to compete anymore because it was for a living anyway and you made a good living and you're done for the rest of your life. That's awesome. But to leave, I can't perform because of my hamstring or my knee or my hip, that's unacceptable. That's not any truth the body's going to like. It could be you not wanting to work to put yourself in a position to heal. Accept that. But that's a reality that you're going to have to accept as an athlete is, I just didn't want to do the work to heal and I was done with it. Okay, that's different than, well, I had an injury and this, that, and the other, and I couldn't perform anymore. That was your choice. Now, back to Cassie's post on a while ago where the water warms before it boils. You see this in injuries. Before a rupture or before the big stuff, before a torn ligament, before a herniated disc that just gets so big and bad and the symptoms are just ungodly. That doesn't, I mean, think about this. The design of the human isn't really efficient if that would occur out of nowhere, because we would just have humans just falling all over the place and humanity would never make it this far. The design had us to the point where ruptures were the first sign of dysfunction or injury. That doesn't make any sense, right? So the body, just like water warms before it boils, before this big shit, the body will warm. So before a ruptured Achilles, are there previous tightness, chronic tightness in that area, or previous pulls in that area, or previous, of course, and you see it where you see a ruptured Achilles. Go back in their case history. History of rolled ankles, Achilles tightness on that side, calf pulls months beforehand. And again, when you're talking sports, they'll go into those pulls and tightness, and they go into those therapies and treatments. And it's only a matter of time where you can kind of calm the waters and sort of dance around this, but the body doesn't stop, and the body's not going to take a break from this whole thing, no matter how many manila packets of drugs you're going to take, no matter how many treatments you've taken, no matter who you've hired to break every single rule in the book imaginable of healing. So when you see a rupture like that, go back and see and think, if they're not being discussed, there were previous warnings prior to. So it's not about preventing injuries, because you can't prevent injuries. Injuries occur, but injuries have a whole bunch of different levels. Injuries are a part of life. Injuries are supposed to happen. Injuries guide you as to the work that you need to do and the status of how you're doing when you test yourself on the field in sports. Injuries are there. Injuries are a certainty. They damn well have to be here, because if you do it right and you do it true, you come back from these injuries as opportunities. Then you look at it as, wow, shit, I'm so glad that my calf was so tight for so long and I went ahead and actually made some fucking changes instead of choosing a massage therapist for so long. Or, my God, the little tweak in the calf totally showed me where I had some weakness in my shoulders and hands and ankles, and I totally had to revamp everything in my life, and I came back, and now that's the way we got to look at injuries. But the whole concept of preventing injuries is just as ridiculous as preventing illness. It doesn't make any sense. Because living that way is thinking that illness is something that's very bad, foreign, and whatever, and it's just the body's healing and adaptation to your chosen life. And if your body's not responding to your chosen life, what the fuck are you doing? Same thing with injuries. So something, when you see these big career-ending or season-ending, career ending is by choice, first of all. They chose that to walk away from their sport because of an injury, not because the body couldn't do it anymore. Because it does. It never stops. Go back, and there's warnings. Now, with Aaron Rodgers, did he have a calf pull? Of course he did. Burrow, did he pull a calf prior to the big one? Yes, of course he did. So again, from an evolutionary model, that previous one was the first warning, or it was the third warning. And again, it's up to the person, especially they're up against the wall, because the player has to do what the team says, and then the player's got to go take care of themselves outside of the team. But everything the team is doing to get them on the field is antagonizing healing, so they got to do extra work in addition to, and sometimes the time isn't there. They got families, or they got, promotional things. They got all these other things they got to do. So at some point, it's just like, dude, I've broken every rule. The body always keeps score to every choice I'm making, and it just couldn't do it anymore, and it had to give. And it was a rupture, or it was a dislocation, or it was a massive, massive pull, or whatever it was. So something to keep in mind there. Now, it appears to me, as to the news, that Aaron Rodgers is getting a new surgical technique done, and it's this bridge, and it's this anchor into the Achilles, and it's going to get him back faster to where he could possibly be back for playoffs. Again, anytime technology, science, and research and medicine and performance and healing has you doing something that gets you back sooner, that's the goal, sooner. That's another rule broken, because the body's on its own time. And if we go in and mechanically go in to do something to offset what the body would naturally do, well, when the anchor was there, there'd be so much swelling, and the rehab would take so long. So long is, again, annoyance to a team trying to get the best back on so we can put fans in the seats, so we can get to playoffs, so we can win a Super Bowl or win the World Series. Absolutely, that's what you sign up for. But again, understand that any breakthroughs in science and technology and surgeries that have you coming back faster, that means less time for you to go through and feel the changes you are actually absolutely going to have to make in the face of what you're experiencing, because everything you're experiencing is for that person to go ahead and change their life. So this is something else with pro sports that doesn't get talked about. And anytime you see the surgical intervention, oh my God, it's this breakthrough and it's going to have him back. So it is up to the person going through that to have to go. And for every rule we break, it's 3 or 4 times more abiding by the rules and principles and laws of everything healing. So that's something else that I see as a red flag when you see this. Now, to have somebody come back and perform and play, that's amazing. Sign up for it. If I was a pro athlete and I had the opportunity to go to the Super Bowl and it was this, that, I'd go ahead and break some rules. But then I'd be on the offset to go, okay, body, this is what we're going to do. I'm going to take some really nasty narcotics. I'm going to go ahead and get a procedure done. I'm going to do all this stuff. But watch what we're going to do on the other end so that I can help you kind of handle this. Because it's a testament to the body's ability to heal, that these athletes aren't just dropping on the ground all over the place as it is, with what they're exposed to from the medical standpoint, medications, the anti-inflammatory injection, pills, all this stuff. And now they don't inject anymore. They take them by pills so that they can sustain a longer period of dumbing down the nervous system too. And then they take Red Bull to jack it up. I mean, the fact that the athletes aren't just completely falling all over themselves is such a beautiful expression of the body just fucking adapting, even to the bullshit of the healing and rehab that they say is for healing and rehab. They got to adapt and heal to the bullshit that's being exposed to them there. So again, no way to prevent injuries. That's not a reality, so stop talking like that. There is no specific single exercise somebody's missing out on as to why an injury would occur. The reality of anything catastrophic happening, the water warms before it boils, so there were warnings prior to. The team of people in leading these people back onto the field is completely 100% the opposite of anything that any input that the body needs to actually go on. There's no level of health or healing or natural or real or true that comes, but that's not why you play sports. You don't play sports to heal injuries. You don't play sports to heal tumors. You don't play sports. You play sports to compete and win. Done, period. And so it's on the individual. But for every rule you break, body keeps score. You got to stay on the other end. So that's something to keep in mind here as you watch your favorite athlete go. But in terms of the 2 injuries that we're seeing now, and then just in general in pro sports, and this was something that was very frustrating from a clinical standpoint when you had us who were trying to get them to abide by rules. And the number 1 rule was stop all the rehab and therapies that they're giving you. The number 2 rule was pull away from skill work. And you try to manage that as best you could, but it was so hard because you had an organization and money involved and orthopedic knowledge and brains, and these guys and girls just don't have any clue. And when you're saying the opposite, you're definitely going to be a minority and not going to get listened to. And then it's up to the individual to go ahead and take care of themselves, which we had some pirates in there undercover going and doing certain things without telling anybody that they were, because that's how it had to happen. It was like this black market, real, true healing. And so things to take into consideration as you are observing professional or collegiate sports, or if you're getting into these things. These are the truths that you got to play by. Body never stops. The body only heals and adapts, no exceptions, regardless of who you put steering your ship and leading your ship. But it is entirely 100,000% on the accountability, responsibility of the athlete to go ahead and take care of themselves. There's no reason to retire because of an injury. That doesn't make sense. Now everybody go get to work. Everybody.